Good morning. My name's Kyle Houchins. I'm a technical trainer for McNeil, and today I wanted to show a little bit more in-depth demo on one of the new tools coming out in version 8, which is called push-pull. And what I wanted to do is start from a cube and turn it into a house. And I don't particularly have a design for this, and I don't particularly have an idea as to where I'm going to go. Which to me is actually one of the more interesting parts of this workflow because it offers a lot of ability to be able to explore and iterate and try things and kind of find the way along the way, which is typically how I design things anyways. Most architects start with a floor plan or something like that, but I'm not an architect, which you'll see very clearly within the process of this demo. So, you know, save your hatred for my lack of architecture process, you know, for somebody else, because I'm not an architect and I don't claim to be one. I just want to show the tools and show how it can apply within, you know, this kind of context. So there's two hotkeys I'm going to use for this demo just for the sake of speed, and one of them is Inset, which is a companion tool for push-pull, which works really kind of wonderfully, and the other one is simply just push-pull. So I've got an alias set up for push-pull, I've got an alias set up for Inset. I'll call those out when I'm doing them, but that's the command, and that's where we're going to go from here. So the one of the cool things about this demo is the lack of tools that I'm actually going to use to get where I need to go. One of the tools that kind of is in this bag is one called split face, and it's an old tool. It's been around for a long time, and we're going to just start there. The other thing I want to call out is in version 8 there's this new thing called an auto CPlane. And if I engage this and I sub-object select something, you'll see that the C-plane actually jumps to that face, which is kind of cool in this context, and you'll see why as we get into this demo a little bit. But for now, I just want to call that out. Auto C-plane is on. There's a couple of different options down here. If you leave it sticky, it will stay to where you set it last. You can lock it, and then you can align it object, world, or to view. If you deselect something, I don't have it set sticky because I actually like it going back to world, which is what it's going to do here. And so if you see my C-plane jumping around, that's why it's down here with this auto C-plane. So the first thing that we're going to do is add a peak to this roof, and I'm going to sub-object select by Control-Shift-Click, and you'll see that the C-plane jumps up here. And I'm going to just grab a polyline with an O-snap. I'm going to draw a line mid to this object. Now what this does is if I were to just jump into push-pull, you'll see that all it does is allows me to be able to select one half of that face and actually just either push it or pull it, right? Which isn't what we want to do. We want to add a peak here, so what we need to do is actually add some geometry, and we're going to do that with split face. And we're going to split this face, and we're going to use a selected curve, and we're going to go to there. Now I can sub-object select. I'm going to get rid of that curve so it's gone. We can sub-object select and actually do a gumball move and just add a peak to this object. And you'll see that we just made a house, right? And we can do all of the typical gumball things. We can scale it this way. We can scale it this way. We can scale it this way. We can do all of that kind of stuff as we're kind of iterating and going on there. I kind of have in my mind a little kind of like Scandinavian inspired kind of cabin, and so I'm gonna drag select, Control Shift drag select these top faces here, and I'm just gonna increase the verticality of this just a little bit by dragging those faces up. And so there's a couple of things that we're doing here. We're going to be splitting faces, which means we're going to be taking faces and we're going to be creating shapes within those faces using split face. We're going to be moving stuff, which is what we do with Gumball already, right? Version 6, version 7, you can do all that kind of stuff. We're going to be moving stuff with Gumball. Then we're going to be doing Inset, which allows us to either split a face or just drop a curve onto a face. And then we're going to be using push-pull, which allows us to be able to actually manipulate the surfaces, which there was a workflow for this, but it was kind of clunky in the past, using extrude face and all that kind of stuff. So all of these workflows are kind of tightening up a little bit to allow us to be able to, do this workflow. So the first thing, I'm just going to run the inset hotkey, and you can see that what it does is it's defaulted to an inset distance of 1. I'm going to change this to through point, which is going to allow me to be able to kind of drag out the inset. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from split yes to split no, which means it's only going to drop a curve onto this face. And push-pull will automatically identify regions as long as the curves are closed, which allows you to be able to then simply just grab a face and push it in. And so we'll do something kind of like that, and then we'll start looking at windows and things like that later. But I kind of have an idea, like maybe this thing should have a little carport off the side. So I'm going to Control-Shift-Click, see how my C-plane pops over here, and then I'm going to just use a near snap, and I'm going to draw a line on that. I'm going to use push-pull. I'm going to click in this region, and I'm just going to pull this face out. You'll notice when I pull this face out, you see there's a split here. When I let go, it combines all of that. So it's kind of auto-combining and auto-booleaning, all that kind of stuff. Now, the one thing that doesn't allow you to do, which Gumball allows you to do, is to be able to turn corners, right? So right now, if I were to grab this and I were to use extrude, you'll notice that it extrudes, but it doesn't auto-complete, right? It doesn't combine these faces, which gives you the opportunity to be able to simply use push-pull again, and I can pull this down and with an O snap, snap it to that base. Now, that's cool, but you say, oh well, it's leaving this as two pieces and I don't want to deal with that. Well, you simply just use merge all coplanar faces, and that edge disappears. And so you've got a bunch of freedom and flexibility as far as how you want to, split this up, and whether you want to extrude or whether you want to, move, or whether you want to add, or whether you want to just push pull, depending on which tools you want to use. Now, I don't necessarily like this relationship right here, so I'm going to grab push pull, and I'm going to just grab this face, and I'm going to pull it up a little bit until it kind of visually tracks. I kind of like that transition to look a little bit better. And then this guy looks a little fat, so I'm just going to push that in here. Now, I'm sure any architects that are watching this are screaming into their soy milk latte because I don't have any dimensions or anything like that. Again, this is just to show kind of the potential of the tool. I don't claim to be an architect or have any type of architecture training, so settle down. So the next thing I want to do is I want to kind of add a little base to this, and I'm going to push-pull this guy down a little bit more and let it combine, and I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to use Gumball Extrude, so Control-Shift-Click, and then I'm going to Gumball Extrude this and snap it there, because what I can do now is I can push-pull and just bring this over and connect it. And you can see that all of that kind of turned into a nice little layout, right? And I kind of want this face and this face to be the same, so I'm just going to Control-Shift-Click them, and I'm going to use push-pull. Actually, we'll just use push-pull, and I'm just going to bring it up, and I'm going to snap it to that, so all this stuff lines up. Now, I've got an extra edge over here, so I'm going to just merge all coplanar faces, and that'll take care of that. So let's look at kind of how we can break up the front of this thing. And we used Inset before, and that worked well. So let's go back to that, and let's Inset and give ourselves curves. Again, we're gonna not split this. We're gonna just drop that as a curve, and then we can simply just go in here and start drawing curves, and we can do things like, start trying to figure out what our layout is going to look like. And maybe we want this to be kind of like have a little detail in here, and then we'll maybe mirror this guy. And you know, this is just kind of 3D sketching. We're just kind of playing here, trying to figure out kind of what we want to do with this thing. And maybe we want to bring a curve down here kind of like that, and maybe we'll mirror this up so that we can get some details in there, and maybe we like that. And so let's grab those curves, and I'm going to curve Boolean. I've got a hotkey set up for that too, but the command is actually curve Boolean. I'm going to delete all of my inputs, and I'm going to use I'm going to delete all of them, and I'm going to just click in these areas to give myself some curves. And so you can see where they're kind of landing here, right? And so if I grab these curves, let's just take them and stick them on this face, and I'm just going to snap them to this corner here. And you can see that we've got these guys kind of landed here, right? So let's push pull, and I'm going to pick this face, and then I'm going to invert it, which gives me all of these faces, and then I'm going to just pull this guy in just a little bit, and then I'm going to inset again, and I'm going to use through point, and to find which one controls it, which is this guy up here. I'm going to just add another little step in here, and then we'll push pull. And now, because these regions are separated, I can't do them, you know, all at the same time. So I'm going to push this in just a little bit, and then I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to over drag it, and then just right click, and it should. It went the wrong way. There we go. And so that way it knows which direction it's going. So I'm going to over drag it and just right click. Went the wrong way. There we go. Sometimes you got to really insist that it goes the right way. There we go. So we've got all of our little stanchions and all that kind of stuff set up the way we want it. So let's make this one kind of a door. And so I'm going to Control Shift click on this face, and then I'm going to draw a curve from center, and I'm going to start at the midpoint, and I'm just going to draw this up kind of overlapping like that. And then I can push pull this. It looks like it's not quite on that face, so let's stick it right on that face. Snap it there. The curve has to be on the actual face itself in order for it to recognize that. So let's inset that one a little bit. And actually, I kind of want to pull this one out here so that that kind of has a feel. And then let's add like a little step or something here. And we're going to do that just with curves. And I'm going to Control Shift click to stick my CPlane there. And I'm going to kind of draw a line here, and then I'm going to change my CPlane to this one, and then I'm going to draw kind of down like that, somewhere in there. Do this like that. Doing this all in 3D. And so now what I can do is I can just push pull this face, and I can add a little step there. And so you don't have to project things onto a surface. You can just draw them on and end up with something that's actually kind of pretty useful. So let's grab all those curves and delete them for now, because I don't want them to get in the way. And then let's add like a little detail on the side of this thing. And so if we go over here and I just do something like this, I can project curves on, so I'll show you that. We'll just take this, and we're going to just project this curve onto this object, delete the original curve. And now I've got a bunch of regions here, and I might not want this region down here, so I'm actually going to explode that projected curve and just delete these. Not the model, I'll just delete the curves. There we go. And push-pull will recognize that this stuff is all kind of one thing. So let's pull this out. And because it's a plane change, I can't get them both at the same time, but I'm going to pull this out. And then I'm going to pull this out, but I'm going to change the direction from that direction to this direction. And then I'm going to just snap this. I'm going to just make it kind of close at this point. Like that, and then I'm going to push pull this to snap to that, and then I don't want this face to kind of translate over like that, so I'm going to just move it, and I'm going to snap it vertically, and then I can merge all faces. So now I've got that little detail pulled out. I can adjust that with Gumball. I can either, pull it in or out. And then I want to add a little window detail in there. So let's just inset. I'm going to use through point by hitting T enter. And we'll push pull that in. Something like that. And then maybe we want some detail in there. So let's inset that again. See how you can kind of just kind of play with it and see where it goes. It's the thing that's most compelling to me is I'm very much a find the way along the way kind of designer, and a window like this, this huge kind of window would be really expensive, and so maybe what we want to do is we want to look at a different version of this that's maybe broken up into smaller windows. And so let's snap the C-plane to there, and then let's just draw some little kind of divisions in here, and we can array those or we can copy them. Here's here's a trick I like a lot. I'll just kind of visually copy something, kind of wing it, and then I'll grab these guys and then run the distribute command, which makes them equal. As long as I didn't do anything dumb like put them on different axes or anything like that. But you can see what it'll do is if we run the distribute command and then we do it in the Z, it should make those even, and it didn't. So let's try that again. Let's do it in this direction. So what it does then is it equals out all of that spacing. Then we can grab these helps if I get the model centered here. Trying to grab just the windows. There we go. Grab that. And not you. And because Gumball works off the bounding box center of an object, I can find the mid snap of this, and then I know that not only are these evenly distributed, but they are now centered in that space. So now we can come over here and push pull, and we can go like, it looks like they're not sitting on that face. I'm going to get rid of this curve here. Got to actually be sitting on the face, and in this case they're not. So let's make them so. So I'm going to just snap them using Gumball to that corner back there, and then push pull should be able to figure out where they are. And I'm going to invert that, and then I'm just going to pull that out to there, and then we've just added that little detail like that, right? So let's make a few more modifications to this thing. Like, obviously we can't pull into this driveway because there's a huge step in here. So let's split that, and I'm going to Control Shift click to set my C-plane up there. I'm going to draw a line kind of somewhere in here, and then I'm going to draw another one here and here. And then what I can do is split face, and I'm going to split this face and this face, and I'm going to use this curve and these curves. And what that does is that breaks that, which I can now Control Shift click and then sub-object modify this like that and make a little ramp for the driveway. Now maybe it doesn't make any sense to have this that high. We can just Control Shift click and just drag it down, right? And then we can just modify this more. And then we've got our little entrance for our driveway. And maybe we want some details in this face here. Let's Control Shift click here. Let's grab a curve and let's kind of make it somewhere kind of liney up like that. And then I'm gonna, here's a trick for getting stuff even. I'm gonna take this guy and then I'm gonna mirror it here to here, and then I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna move it just to the mid. And then you've got three evenly distributed objects, and I don't like their uppy-downy location, so I'm going to just move that to the mid. And then I think they're just a little bit too tall, so I'm going to grab these again. And with Gumball, I'm just got to grab all of them. There we go. I'm just going to drag these down a little bit. And then I'm going to use push-pull. I'm going to invert, and then I'm going to push them through and turn them into windows. And if I don't like how tall they are, I can just grab this, and now I can just drag it up or down, do whatever I want. Maybe they're skylights, like that. All right, let's go around to the back here and let's add a little deck. And because this face is continuous all the way around here, we need to draw a curve from here to here, and we also need to draw a curve from here to here, because we can't split just this piece because that's not a closed loop. So let's split face. This is going to be our face. We're going to select curves. It's going to be this guy and this guy, and that splits this back into two pieces. We can now push pull this, add a little deck like that, and then let's do something like add a fireplace or something like that. Let's have some fun with this. So this is the back. Let's grab this. We'll do a center curve. Let's do something like, I don't know what kind of aspect like that. And then I'm going to relocate my gumball to here, and then I'm going to snap it to the edge because I don't really want that to go past the edge. And then let's project this onto that, and you can see that we end up with all of the stuff that we need for our fireplace. And so we can push pull this out just a little bit like that. And then actually I might have needed to do that in a different sequence. Let's see. That'll let me do it. And so you can see that my original direction is this way, so I'm going to change direction, and I'm going to do that vertically. And you'll notice in Rhino 8, see that blue line? That's a vertical snap. And I'm going to just pull this guy up like that. I'm going to do the same thing. Shift click to get that second piece. And let's bring this up. Doesn't really matter because we're going to take both of these and we're gonna turn the auto CPlane off, and I'm gonna scale to 0, and that's gonna flatten that whole thing out. See that? And then we can merge. And then it didn't merge this because it might not be dead planar, so let's just look again. Looks like it is. If it's going to misbehave, I'm just going to delete it. Looks like there's a little center surface in here that I'm going to get rid of. There we go. Now I can cap it, and that goes back to where it needs to go. And then I want to add a little cap to this, so I'm going to Control-Shift-Click, and I'm going to use a Gumball Extrude because I want that actually to be a separate object, right, with that split. And then I want to push-pull this out a little bit. This the same amount. I just dragged, and so the way to get it to be even, drag farther than you need it to go, and then just right click, and it'll use the same setting that it had before. Don't left click. If you left click, you're going to set a new distance. So let's inset, and we'll add the inside of the chimney. And then let's add a few little details back here as far as windows. So I'm going to inset again. Kind of something like that. And then let's push-pull those. See how flexible this is? It's just like, we're just kind of playing, right? So I got to drag this farther than I think I need to, and then right click to have it be the same distance. I'm going to inset again just to add a little detail in here using through point, so I want that to be smaller. There we go. And then let's add some little window details in here, something like that, so that we're not spending $1 million on glass. Control-Shift-Clicked on that face, and let's just draw a little window doodad there. I think that's called a mullion. Somebody will correct me in the comments if that's wrong, but I think that's what that's called. And let's stick them on that glass surface itself. So we want to snap it to this. We want to snap it to that inside corner right there, and then we can push-pull. This seems like a simple workflow, right? It seems like it's like, oh, duh, that's like easy stuff to do, right? But in the past in Rhino, this used to be really kind of a hassle. Like, you had to do a lot of projecting, and you had to do a lot of booleans, and you had to do a lot of, you know, kind of fussing around to get this, you know, kind of workflow to work. And now, not only with the auto CPlanes and stuff can you do this in 3D, but it's kind of easy, and it's kind of fun, and it's kind of, you know, playful, which I'm a big fan of. And it allows you to be able to kind of just go in and pull something off really quickly like this. Now, let's say we get to this point and we say, you know, okay, yay, we're good, and we'll throw some materials on this and just make it interesting. And you know, this kind of Scandinavian vibe I have going on says that it should be something kind of, you know, darkish. And let's move the transparency up on this, and we're just going to Control-Shift-Click anything that's supposed to be a window. Doot, 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 doot. And let's take a look and see what we've got. So we've got this thing, and that looks a little Manson family. So let's throw just a little something on here to lighten it up just a little bit, and maybe we do I don't know, Scotch pine or something like that. I don't know. I'm not even going to worry about the mapping on the grain for now. I just kind of want to get color breaks. And so let's just play with kind of forms and things that, you know, kind of colorways and things like that. Maybe we want to kind of lighten this up a little bit. And, you know, we could do something different with the fireplace. Maybe we get a concrete in here. Let's grab a concrete. Just say something like that. And that's going to think for a second while it loads. And let's just add a concrete texture here. And maybe even this front step. And maybe that just needs to be wood. But we can kind of play with this and decide, you know, what this thing kind of looks like or what it feels like, or, you know, and in just a short amount of time we can end up with something that we can start messing around with, right? And if we want to add some more details, you know, we could do things like we could project ribs on the roof, we could do all this kind of stuff. But let's say that the client does something, throws us a curveball and says that, you know, I don't like this flat roof, I really want this to be a peaked roof over the carport. And so we'll go here and we'll figure out kind of where the midpoint of this thing is, and we'll just snap here and we'll project this onto, there we go, project this onto this model. And I'm going to explode this curve because I only want these two pieces. And I'm going to select all my other curves but deselect this one and then just delete them. So we've got everything that we need to actually make this a peaked roof now. If we split face and I pick these two faces and I use that curve, I end up with a split face. Now watch what happens if I grab this edge and I just transform it, right? How lovely would it be if I could just go boop and pull this up like that? That would be awesome, right? But what we're going to run into is we're going to run into a problem where this stuff back here starts to twist. And so the fix for that is we drag this point over and we go like that. And that fixed this one, but it left us with a mess back here. I'm just going to delete it and then I'm going to run the cap command. And it's going to replace that tortured surface with a nice, clean, easy one. And so now we just went from, you know, one style to a different style. And if we want to match that on the inside, we can even do things like extract an isoparam and snap this to the middle. And then we can split this face by curve. And then we can grab this guy and we can pull that up. And that should go okay because all of the geometry surrounding it is kind of degree 1 geometry. That's the key, is anytime you force the geometry to go from degree 1, which is flat, to anything that's got a curve to it. If I grab this point, for instance, and I pull this up, that has to curve. Anytime you force that to go from degree 1 to degree 3 geometry is where you're going to run into an issue where you're going to get this weird rebuild. And so on one hand, you could say, oh, well, that's annoying that it does that. But on the other hand, what it is pointing out an issue with your model, right? It's pointing out, especially for something like this that needs to remain planar, it's pointing out an issue that you need to go back and actually try and figure out why that happened and just repair it. Most of the time, it's just a matter of undoing your transform, or if you get a surface that misbehaves, you can just delete it and run the cap command, and cap will fill in any open planar holes that that you know causes any type of distortion or anything like that. All right, I think I'm going to add one more detail on this just because I'm me and I can never leave well enough alone. So I'm going to pull this in kind of like that, and then I'm actually going to use just a part of that line like that, and I'm going to push pull, and you can see that push pull actually can identify where those breaks are. So even though that curve was like overdrawn and kind of messy, as long as there's a closed region, it can actually figure out where that stuff is and go from there, right? Which is kind of cool. All right, so let's say one more thing. Let's say that we've decided that we don't want these to be open windows, we want them to be closed windows. So let's do this. I did this the other day and I kind of chuckled that it worked. I'm going to use an extracted isoparam, and I'm going to just add that, right? And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to copy them here and here. That gives me push-pull regions that I can do this. Boop. And it just kind of merges everything together. And so now those are windows that you can then mess with. All right, I think I've beat this to death. I don't want this to turn into like, you know, a 10-hour demo or anything like that, but it gives you enough information that you can now see kind of what's going on here with push-pull, and I hope it gives you enough information that you could go and then start trying this on your own, and hopefully people who have actual architecture skills instead of someone like me can play with this and decide, you know, start generating some actually, you know, quality work as opposed to just hacking something together like this. So that's about all I have for you. I hope that gives you enough information to go out and try it and start playing with it. And as always, we're open to feedback on our forum, which is discourse.mcneil.com. And that's about all I have for you. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Go make great stuff. I'm Kyle Houchins, Tech and a Trainer for McNeil. Thanks. Bye.